Wycombe Wanderers. I was at football matches all the time. You know, we would train maybe 2 nights per week in our earlier days, and then finally when we became a professional side, of course, every single day. But I was watching games all the time. I watched Chelsea reserves till I'm blue in the face. I could have named. They played at Kingstonian's ground every Monday night or every second Monday night. I saw all the games, and I used to think, well, just note. And obviously Muzzy Izzet was one of the particular people, but there was a number of players down there. But I thought that Izzet was top quality. I thought he could do it, and if I ever thought that we'd get an opportunity to take him, and if he wasn't considered good enough at Chelsea, then that would be ideal. Neil Lennon, I was lucky because John and I saw him 3 or 4 consecutive games. Just the run happened for midweek matches. We got lucky. Southampton, they played in the Cup, then they played at Bradford. I always thought him as a nice little passer, not so sure about his pace and things like that. But when you get an opportunity to watch a player for 3 or 4 consecutive games, then you realise he can do it. And he was enormous. Elliot, first time I ever saw Elliot play, I was at Doncaster versus Scunthorpe. And he was getting rave reviews for Scunthorpe at the time. Went to watch the game. He had an absolute stinker, you know. Big lad thought he could play, kept losing the ball under pressure, you know, and can't remember the result, but anybody who was showing any interest whatsoever in Elliot would have died a death that day. Remarkably, I pick up the paper the following Thursday, he's gone to Oxford. You still have to take a gamble about whether he's good enough. It's all right saying he's playing for Oxford United, but is he good enough to go and play Premiership and play Premiership football under pressure? And you know he's not the quickest. But my word, he was a great player indeed, absolutely brilliant. So all those players did fantastically well. I'm delighted for them. But I'm going to keep emphasising the point. The important players at the football club still give you that nucleus, you know. Walsh was very, very strong, quality centre half. Always complaining he was injured or ill or sick or a combination of all of those the day before, and sometimes it would have annoyed your head. But when you got him out to play, he was absolutely immense, and Park was a great influence. Young wee Scotty Taylor did great until he got injured as well too. Up and coming Emile Heskey, absolutely fantastic. I mean, at 18 years of age, as he was then, he could do the lot. He could go and play left back if you wanted him to do. He was powerful. He could have played centre half. He could have headed as well as anybody, and we employed him down the left-hand side in the promotion run. But we knew eventually he wanted to go and play centre forward.
Let's get it out of the way of the interview, because we know it's bound to crop up. Sheffield United.
I was prepared to forget the 30th of March 1996 at about 27 minutes past 4 o'clock, when the crowd absolutely erupted. Sheffield United scored their second goal in the game. Yeah, I'd forgotten it completely, but it's there, and absolutely right. They went wild, the crowd, and I never thought about walking away. It was interesting, Paul, because you mentioned the little meeting afterwards. I hadn't realised. Obviously, Ian Sylvester was there at the time, and he had sort of warned me beforehand that there might be a few demonstrations, and maybe that I should park my car somewhere else. I said, "What, you mean not in the car park?" I said, "No." I said, "Where would you suggest?" I think he said Nottingham to tell you. But anyway, so when the second goal went in that particular day, all hell broke loose, and the scenes were pretty destructive. Afterwards, it was only by chance that I hear. I mean, obviously, I was very, very down in the dressing room, and did I hear John Robertson come in to tell me that there was a meeting taking place, that some people had been handpicked from the demonstration mob outside, crowd, I should say, mob to me that particular day. And so I arrived in, and there was Tom Smeaton and John Elsom trying to placate this group of people, 15, 20, 30 people, who'd been hand-picked, I think a firing squad. And I hadn't realised the meeting was going on, and when I found out that that this meeting was taking place, I obviously went into the room, and to take whatever sort of punishment I was going to get, but obviously to try and explain some things to people as well. So whether that worked or not is debatable. But I think that on the Monday night, I went on the local radio phone-in. And people were, obviously dishing up plenty of abuse, which you have to take. And I just asked for a little bit more time, that was all. And that if I couldn't turn it round in the foreseeable future, then obviously enough, they would be right to get rid. But again, the one thing I clung to was that the length of time given, 13 weeks into the job, even by normal standards, I didn't think that was terribly long, and that really was only be getting to know the players at this particular stage.
Did the difficulties you went through in those first few months make ultimately Wembley and Crystal Palace in the final all the more sweeter?
Oh, without a doubt, and absolutely no question of that, Paul. No question at all. I thought you were going to say, does it make you a better manager? I think yes. I think you have to plumb the depths of despair before, and hopefully survive, before you see the fruits of it.
What can you remember of that split second of when Steve Claridge's hit the ball and it's gone towards the goal?
Right, just about everything. Do you remember we were making the substitution where Poole was in goal, and we felt that big Zeljko Kalic should come onto the field to if it was going into penalties. And Zeljko had a problem at that particular stage in his career. He was 6'7" and couldn't hold on to the ball for long enough. Poole was a much better goalkeeper, very, very agile, very small. I just thought from one-off shots, if we hadn't used up all our subs, that Kalic might be an imposing figure in goal. It was only a thought. And, to this day, that some of the Crystal Palace players say that they were actually disturbed by the substitution taking place and lost a little bit of concentration. That was not the plan. And we waited just in case Zeljko maybe had a shot to save in the normal game. We waited right down to about almost an American football time, about 6.5 seconds left to the game. Zeljko went onto the field, putting his gloves on, said, "Don't worry, I'll win it for you." But thankfully we didn't have to use him, because within that 6.5 seconds Claridge has scored, to me, what probably the most important goal of the period then.
Set it all up, didn't it, after that? Gave you the springboard in the Premiership.
Absolutely. Well, who's to say that if we had lost that one, that we would have, like Crystal Palace the following year, come back and beat Sheffield United, I think, in the playoff final? Who's to say that we would have been good enough to have gone through the whole season again? Who's to say that the crowd wouldn't have become restive again? Who's to say a lot of things? Who's to say that I would have even survived 2 months into the next season? Certainly in the early days, and I'm not just talking about the first season, I'm really talking about the parts of the next season, although we get off to a terrific start with 18 points after 9 games when we beat Barnsley one evening just before we went to Madrid. But overall we knew that we had to play very strongly and play hard. There was no respite in the games, but the players didn't want it any other way, and therefore and neither did the fans. And of course all that camaraderie and that good feeling was really a special part of the club for the next couple of seasons. Any side that played us, as Alex Ferguson often mentioned, knew that they were in a game. They knew that it was going to be hard. They knew that they wouldn't lie down. And they knew that they would keep going, and that they would press on. And what we were trying to do, and it was that we're trying to win football games in order to give us a chance to build a side.
All good things come to an end, I suppose, as far as Leicester fans are concerned. How difficult was it ultimately, having been at the club for 5 years, to make the decision to leave?
One of the most difficult decisions I've ever had to make. I was going along merrily, enjoying my life, enjoying myself, and we had some money to spend with Emile going off to Liverpool, and we thought we'd wait until the summertime to see how things developed. Well, actually, by the time he had gone, it was too late to have done anything with it anyway. But trying to earmark someone to replace Emile. Hopefully Stan Collymore would come back from the broken ankle, and he was making good progress. And we were all in what we consider pretty good shape, or so we thought. And the offer from Celtic came right out of the blue. I think they'd gone a couple of times for other particular people, whether it was with success or not, I'm not so sure. And something drew me there, and I wanted to do that. Now, it was not, I've often said before, coming to Celtic took about a second and a half. Leaving Leicester was exceptionally difficult, and I think that the chairman, Mr. Elson, made it exceptionally difficult for me to leave. You were there involved as well too at the time, Paul, and I remember that. And I remember it with great fondness, a lot of sadness, to be perfectly honest. And it was not easy. One of the disappointments, of course, is that that I suppose with 22,000 people at Filbert Street, not moving into the new stadium, they've been talking about it for ages and ages and ages, and finally I'm delighted to see that they're playing in a wonderful stadium. It's a regret. I wish that I'd been around for that part, or I wish that they had put the things into motion a lot more quickly than they did do. But it's great now at this moment. The stadium's there. You never know. Emile Heskey might have stayed on for another season. Stan Collymore might have got fit, and everything might have been rosy. You just don't know.